The situation in Syria is getting more complicated, amid warnings that it could soon spiral out of control. There has been a major escalation in Israeli attacks against Syria. Israeli jets have struck targets inside the Syrian territory again. This time, dozens of warplanes are said to have fired missiles at military, intelligence, and radar facilities. Israel claims the targets were Iranian military facilities. The regime says it carried out the operation following a rocket attack on the occupied Golan Heights, which it blames on Iran. The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Bahram Qasemi strongly condemned the latest Israeli aggression against Syria. He says Israel's repeated attacks against the Syrian territory are all based on false pretexts. The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman further noted that the main supporters of terrorists are now getting directly involved because their favorite extremist groups have been defeated by the Syrian government. The latest episode in Syria is believed to have raised tensions between Iran and Israel to new levels. Iran has military advisors on the ground in Syria to back anti-terror efforts there, and Israel has been one of the main backers of militant groups pushing to oust the Syrian government. Media outlets worldwide have been widely talking about the possibility of an open conflict between Iran and Israel, especially now that Tel Aviv seems emboldened by U.S. President Donald Trump's withdrawal from the nuclear deal with Iran.
With the U.S. cancellation of the Iran nuclear agreement, which was a signed agreement, there is an escalation intended. It's coming from Israel, it's coming from the U.S., it's coming with an effort to escalate the problems and the crises in the region and to escalate and threaten a much wider war.
Israel was always fiercely opposed to any deal between Iran and the United States, and Trump's move is somehow considered as a favor to the Israelis.
There's no challenge to their nuclear weapons. There's no challenge to their war threats. There's no challenge to their bombers coming from the U.S. or any country in the West. And that should really be denounced. And I also think it's important to denounce the U.S. threats and aggressive roles against Iran.
Russia has failed to condemn Israel's latest attack on Syria. It has instead called for dialogue between the Israelis and the Iranians. Russia has advanced air defense systems deployed in Syria, but has not used them effectively to keep Israeli warplanes and missiles away from the Syrian territory. And Tel Aviv is apparently fully aware that it does not have to worry about Russian systems. Israel's latest adventurism in Syria came one day after the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited Russia and sat down for talks with President Vladimir Putin.
There is enormous pressure being put on Russia, on Iran, on Syria, on Lebanon, on every possible country, coming from U.S. Frustration that their policies are not succeeding anywhere. So they are amping up their threats, and they are also trying to divide the forces that have been allied in the region. And that is classic imperialist policy of seeking to divide and to create divisions, play one off against another, and threaten everybody at the same time. I don't think, and I certainly hope it will not fundamentally change, because Russia's assistance in the war in Syria has been very, very important.
The equations related to the conflict in Syria are complicated and are getting even more complex. Observers say they expect the current trend in the region to lead to more conflicts and destabilization.